So the iPhone 13 mini, apart from being just a flat out really great phone, which could not be said for last year's mini, is possibly the last mini phone Apple will ever make. So here's to the iPhone 13 mini, the last hurrah of the mini iPhone. Hey guys, Max here, and this is the iPhone 13 mini. I was especially excited to try out the iPhone 13 mini when I got the chance to, because this size really is just so great, and so many people loved this size when it was introduced last year, and it's lived up to my expectations and surpassed them by a lot at that. So I'm making this review after about a week using this tiny iPhone to lay out all the new things that are different from last year's mini and my thoughts about this unique size. Now, obviously a lot of people who already have the 12 probably won't be upgrading to the 13, but for those of you who are considering getting this iPhone, this review is for you. So let's start off with the design of the iPhone 13 mini, which is immediately what you see and feel when you pick it up. So it's a surprisingly small phone. Like, you know it's going to be small. It's called the iPhone 13 mini, but when you pick it up, it's just so small, light, tiny, and cute. So it has aluminum side rails, which are painted with whatever colorway you get. This is Starlight, which is really just off-white. It also comes in Midnight, basically just very, very dark blue, pink, and product red. It has a kind of slippery, glossy glass back, and so I definitely recommend popping a case on this thing when you get it, although I guess that most people who are watching this video would probably be putting on a case anyway, but I just kind of feel like it's about to yeet right out of your hands. It's basically the same design as last year, a little bit thicker, and by a little bit, I mean a really small amount, and the volume buttons have been moved down a tiny bit. Not a big deal, really. The iPhone 13 mini specifically is just a smaller version of the iPhone 13. They're basically the same phone, just two different sizes. So let's talk about the display. The display is a 5.4-inch OLED panel, and it's been left mostly unchanged from last year's. The difference is that it's now 800 nits peak brightness, up from 625 on last year's, which is quite a bit brighter, and it goes all the way up to 1200 nits peak brightness for HDR. Apple shrunk the notch on this generation, so we have a little more room on the left and right, but it's not very much. Although you really noticed this most on the mini, because on last year's mini, there was barely space for the status bar on the sides. So this is awesome that you can finally read the time and see if you have 5G or not. Now, Apple gave a nice little figure on stage that the notch is 20% smaller, which I guess is true, but the notch is a little taller, meaning it cuts in a tiny bit in 2:1 YouTube videos. If you're using an iPhone 13 mini right now, this video is in 2:1, so check if you can see. When you see it, you can't really unsee it. It is a little more noticeable on my iPhone 13 Pro, but honestly, it's not a huge deal, and you'll get used to it instantly. A lot of people wanted to see Apple add the battery percentage next to the battery indicator, which would be awesome, but I see why they didn't do that, because on the 13 mini, it would be barely visible, because it would either have to be super small or be interrupted by the notch on the side. So I'm actually happy they didn't add the battery percentage. Speaking of battery, let's talk about that better battery life. So the guts of this phone have been upgraded quite a bit, with the A15 chip, which is still one of the fastest chips on the market, and it performs phenomenally, though not a huge upgrade over the A14 from last year. The A15 really kicks in when talking about power consumption, because the A15 chip really just sips power, like really, really small sips. This new chip paired with a larger battery makes this an all-day phone. I said it, and I'm not taking it back. The same could not be said for last year's mini, which had pretty bad battery life, so it's great to see this phone having even better battery life. And I've gotten 8 hours of screen on time one day, which is insane, especially for a phone of this size. Now, do note that this is on Wi-Fi, not cellular, and had screen brightness at probably around 80% the whole day, and that's really, really good. So to all the iPhone mini haters out there, find a new excuse about why this is an awful phone. Alright, let's talk about that camera system. We have a new diagonal camera layout, which is bigger to accommodate those larger lenses, and we have a 12 megapixel wide lens with an f1.6 aperture and 26mm focal length. The second lens is a 12 megapixel ultra wide with f2.4 aperture at 13mm. The camera system is fantastic, and it's hard to believe that some photos that come out of this thing were really taken with a phone. They're vibrant, sharp, and bright. Basically, they just look great. There's a new feature called Photographic Styles, which allows you to customize filters before you take the photo, and it uses AI to adjust the filter to make it look awesome on your photo, and you can pick out your signature look. There are also a lot of upgrades to video, including a new cinematic video mode, which I'll be going over in detail in my iPhone 13 Pro review, which is coming up soon, but to sum it up, it's portrait mode for video, and it looks alright. The subject detection is great, but it's a little messy, and it has a ways to go before it's properly usable. So that's the iPhone 13 mini for $699, starting at 128 gigabytes of base storage capacity this year. I think it's worth the money. It's probably the last mini phone Apple will ever make, so buy it now or forever hold your regret. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.